Hi, my name is Marla Neufeld, and welcome to the Surrogacy Space. In today's episode, we are just sharing insights from a recent interview that I conducted with Greenspoon Marder's immigration partners, Patricia Gannon and Marcela Bermudez, where we explore the intersection of immigration law and surrogacy law. The interview discusses a potentially signed bill in Florida that would restrict parties from entering into surrogacy agreements from certain countries. At the time of the interview, we were not sure if the governor was going to sign this bill into law. However, Governor Ron DeSantis recently did sign the bill into law, and what's known as the FIRE Act, the Foreign Interference Restriction and Enforcement Act, will be effective in Florida on July 1st, 2026. I hope you enjoy this very, very helpful interview that discusses the FIRE Act and the implications that it has, given that it's really focused on immigration impacts and who can pursue surrogacy in Florida from an immigration standpoint. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and enjoy the show. Hi there, my name is Marla Neufeld, and I'm joined today by Greenspoon Marder's wonderful, excellent colleagues in our immigration department. I'm joined today by Patricia Gannon and Marcela Bermudez. If you guys just want to say hello real quick.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And the reason we're here is to discuss some potential law change to Florida surrogacy laws. Very recently, both the House and the Senate approved language to be added to Florida surrogacy law that will add additional restrictions that I feel have certain immigration implications. And what the bill proposes, that at this point just needs to be signed into law by the governor, is that no party, neither the intended parents or the surrogate, can be citizens or residents of what's deemed a foreign country of concern. This amendment was added on to a larger bill in Florida regulating businesses in Florida regarding foreign countries of concern. And the foreign countries of concern is a list of certain countries, which includes the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the Republic of Cuba, the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro, and the state of Qatar, and the Syrian Arabic Republic. I wanted to discuss with our immigration team just a few questions that have come to my mind regarding this proposed legislation, should it become the law in Florida. So I thought we could just kind of start just by kind of your take on this, Patty and Marcella, thoughts on this kind of regulation, which in Florida, especially in our surrogacy laws, is unfounded. I mean, like for 30 years, we've had our laws with no changes. So wanted to see your take on this.
I think if you don't mind, I think, first of all, I didn't know that surrogacy law had not changed in 30 years. So
In
this must
Florida.
just, yeah, in Florida. I know it's a very state-based. So it's like, oh my goodness, this has got to be a huge change. And to be honest with you, when you first were asking me and Marcella about it, I went and did a tiny bit of research into Florida state law. And I was like a little like, why did this happen? Like, what were they hoping to achieve by this?
Right.
And one of your congressmen on the state floor discussed a Wall Street article about Chinese billionaires as
Right.
a reason of putting this into law, where they would hire many surrogates and to have children who were born in the U.S., many, and at 200K for 200K. And then these children would eventually go back to China, have no connection to the U.S., and they would get citizenship down the road. A child can petition for their parent when they turn 21. So this is like a
Right.
long-term way. So I thought
Right.
this is very interesting because I guess the reason they're doing is that there's a people from these countries that are having babies through surrogacy, and then 21 years later they're going to file, and maybe
Right.
it could take 4 or 5 years to get their citizenship and come here. So is
I think
that
the
what Florida's thinking?
misconception is like people might think you have a baby and that maybe automatically greenlights their parents to be a U.S. citizen. But like you
Hmm.
said, they can't sponsor their parents until many, many years later. So that's a very, short-term look at it. And that case you referenced is part of the background of why this was introduced. That case happened in California, and changing the law in Florida is not going to stop what happened in California because parents
Right.
can continue to go get parentage in California or any other state. Um, so, I guess what I wanted to talk to you about is, this proposed bill, which may become law, talks about being a citizen or a resident from one of these countries. So
Mhm.
if it's a very simplistic question, but what does that mean to be a resident? People live all over the place. Where is their residency? And kind of like, how does citizenship work? And what about dual citizens? How will that be impacted? So just kind of those, what is residency and citizenship?
I mean, I guess if you're looking at it from a U.S. perspective, there are distinct things. Citizenship defined by your country, and you can, as you said, have dual citizenship. The U.S. allows dual citizenship. And
Okay.
if you have that dual citizenship, you retain it. There's no requirement to renounce your second citizenship. And
Okay.
residency is defined. It's different from your tax residency, right? Tax residency is the calculation by number of days. Your residency has to be a permanent residency. So you have a lot of people here are long term. They're here on a long term visa, but that's
Okay.
not residency. That's just a long term visa that gives you permission to reside here, but it doesn't give you that permanent residency. So
Interesting.
your long term is your work visas. People here on work visas or student visas, they can be here for many, many years, but that
Mm,
doesn't make them a resident. Citizenship is that it's your passport,
right.
your U.S. passport.
And you mentioned the US allows dual citizenship, but can a person denounce their original country of citizenship? Like I've seen cases of that. I'm just curious, like, when does that come up? Is it a requirement of the home country? If this, like, what makes that decision, determined for?
Renouncing is something voluntary. It's something you have to do proactively from a
Okay.
U.S. perspective. So U.S. recognizes dual citizenship. I can have my U.S. and have more than one or second, third, fourth citizenship. The U.S. has no limitation. You can have your dual citizenship. Other
Okay.
countries do not recognize dual citizenship. So you have Japan, Netherlands. You have some countries that do not recognize dual citizenship.
India, most Asian countries.
Mhm.
How about China, since that's on the list?
Uh, they don't recognize dual citizenship, I don't think. I'd have to double check if something changed, but they the U.S. just our naturalization law, just to put into context, really old laws, probably our oldest, and
Mm,
we had them enacted because in the old days you could only be a citizen if you had so much English blood. So it was really based on, your bloodline, like, you weren't English, too bad. So our whole new world was, no matter who you are, you get citizenship if you follow our laws. Doesn't matter if you don't have English blood, and it doesn't matter if you weren't from the Queen. It doesn't matter any of that. So
okay.
that is kind of our thing of why, give us your rich, give us your poor, give us your asylees. It doesn't matter. Certain laws in other countries say you will be paying, like Israel, for example, they're just like you will pay taxes forever. Once,
Mm,
I don't know how they enforce it, but no, you can renounce, you can do whatever, you're still going to pay taxes.
okay.
Military, like Turkey, they do it for military reasons. India, if they find out that you have a separate citizenship, they don't allow for dual, but now over the years, like in the last 10 years, because there was so much movement, they allow for a card that you can use to come in and out. It works like a passport, but you can never hold any sort of government position. So that's your passport.
Okay. So for any listeners that are listening, as far as like the countries that I've mentioned that are in this bill, the US will allow the dual citizenship, but then you have to look to
Mhm.
what is the home country? Does it
Requirements.
require? renouncement, like for example, possibly China and maybe some others on the list. So you might
Now,
only be able to be a citizen of one
now
country,
the
and
now the U.S. can go after people who have become U.S. citizen if they find out there's fraud or
of course.
misrepresentation
Hmm.
or treason or, you know, I was actually didn't know if you meant renunciation or if citizens, you become a U.S. citizen based on fraud. And, we have cases of that where the U.S. government actually goes after people.
Mm, yeah, of course. I mean, I guess, yeah, we have to just take it case by case, but it's, we have to see, this bill doesn't address like what if someone is a dual citizen. It just
Right.
says you can't be a resident or a citizen of one of those countries. So it's a lot to think about.
I mean,
Um,
I think you're right. It doesn't encompass anything. It touches on foreign nationals, but not immigration law per se.
hmm.
Do you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of things that are not defined in this. When we read it, I went back to read it and we're like, there's more questions, like usual, right? There's a lot of questions that are, are left on it. They even have a definition section and they don't define some of these key terms. They're
Yes,
just not
they don't.
defined.
They're not
right.
defined. And that leaves maybe some sort of constitutional challenge that or the statute's too broad. I mean, really, it's really hard to kind of dig into those words. I mean, Marcela and I were bringing up Venezuela, right?
That's one of my next questions, actually. So go ahead and see what you have to say.
Well, are they saying, are they saying anyone, like this is a term that they've used. Maybe they think it's going to catch on like, like a hip term or something. But
Like, like the regime
yeah, like
control?
regime.
What is the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro? What's that country?
These are,
Yes.
is it like, okay,
Well, that's what
is
I was
it,
going to ask you. I mean, is there a kind of like a prevailing thought, like since he's been arrested or, are they under that regime now in Venezuela? Like, what do you think the,
and again, it's not a defined term, if you look at it at face value, you look at it and say, okay, so does it mean when I obtain, what if I obtain okay, let's just pretend, well, then let's not pretend. Maduro got into power in 2013. So are they saying for those who got their passport in
right?
2013 citizenship, what if you had your passport early? Or what if you had your passport later after Trump and you were born
Mm,
there? What they don't define it. It's a term they
yeah,
made up. It's like saying all
it
Cubans
doesn't say when.
before
Right.
Fidel took power, all Cubans before Fidel took power. Well, what if you got your citizenship through your grandparents or something else? I mean, I don't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, it really doesn't say about when. I mean, it really just
No.
says if you're a citizen or a resident of one of these countries. So,
No, they said specifically Madero. They
oh, right,
said,
right, no, right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of the
yeah.
countries.
Right,
Like
right, right.
beyond that, we
And
don't have further
Of a
definition.
country called Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro.
Right,
right.
right.
So what? Okay, so if I was born in 2013 in Venezuela, I guess he was the president. And
I mean, I
why
wonder
say,
if the safer bet is to take it at the time you're entering into this process because it's saying you can't be from those countries
Hmm.
as you enter into a surrogacy arrangement. So that would just be my thought. But of course, like we're
or
kind of
resident?
going,
Do
right,
they
right,
mean
citizen or
resident?
resident.
So I'm an Australian and I'm working for an oil company in Venezuela. Let's just say, or you know what? We could say any of those countries. I was working. My Australian person. So he's there, he's working, he's a resident of Venezuela. He's working for one of the multinationals there. I guess he's out. Maybe. I don't know.
If he's, yeah, if he's considered a resident. And what's
And
interesting is that many times couples enter into surrogacy arrangement, and I'm now seeing cases of one parent being a U.S. citizen and one being Chinese citizen, and then
Hmm.
kind of where does that leave everyone? I mean, the strict reading is no party can be from or
Right.
reside or be a citizen. Back to like definitions, I'd love to hear your thoughts on like what is, as far as China goes, the People's Republic of China. Like, does that include Hong Kong, Macau? Like, what's the prevailing thought on that region?
well, I think that I mean, again, they should define it, but they're going to say everything that China controls, whether it's Hong Kong or, I mean, I would think that's what they're trying to
And
say.
in the immigration context, they sometimes separate it. So when you're looking at let's say some visa numbers, they might actually define, are we talking just mainland or are we talking the
Right,
territories? But again, lack of definitions here.
I'm
right.
not su- I'm not sure if this was written. Is this written for this to pass? Is what happens? I
Oh,
guess a little.
yeah. I mean, at this point, it's just whether the governor signs it. It's passed House and Senate, so there's no further,
And the governor
um,
will sign this.
I presume
Everyone
so.
just expects that.
I
So
think
when
so.
that happens, who would sue just because it's just a lack of clarity all around? Is there a lawsuit that would take place to just challenge this legislation, or are
I
they
don't know.
waiting? And what percentage of Florida is this impacting? Is this going to make, has anyone
I mean,
protest?
the law broadly, it's a huge bill. I mean, the whole foreign influence bill, it's about business in general, like far reaching. And then on the last day of the Appropriations Committee, they added in the part about surrogacy. It was like the last day that they could have. So this was very quick to add in surrogacy. So there really wasn't any time to have discussion or questions or the intent and the definition. So it leaves a lot of question marks.
Would
Yeah,
once,
even effective dates. I mean, people have maybe entered in contracts and,
Well, that's, yeah.
the
So I mean, it should be effective July 1st with no clarity on, you know,
pre-contracts,
cases that people entered into pre-July 1. The births
right,
will be happening after July
right,
1. I
right,
mean, all
right,
we
right.
can look to is Florida case law on that, case, unless it's specifically retroactively applied, it shouldn't be retroactive. And then whether it's considered a procedural change or a substantive change, how the courts treat that, as far as retroactive application or at the
Mhm.
time of.
Yeah.
It definitely leaves people in limbo.
I would think that, there could be a juicy class action suit here, speaking as, an attorney, because it's got to affect a bunch of people. I mean, it's got to affect people's lives somewhere along the line. And this is so broad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, new, uncharted. I mean, Rick Scott introduced very similar bill at the federal level and never got traction. So this is kind of mirroring that attempt at federal legislation, starting in Florida, and we'll have to see if it continues, as a trend across the nation to limit certain countries from coming to the US
Mhm.
to, pursue
I
surrogacy.
I think I mean I don't know if it's going to take a nationwide, which is probably why it failed in the federal level. But doesn't the state of Florida have particular immigration issues that maybe California has theirs, Minnesota has theirs, but
I mean, we do have different populations that predominantly go to different states. China is, Chinese surrogacy is generally more popular in California due to proximity, and we have more, South America and Latin American countries. But everyone, it's all based upon typically where your surrogate lives and where she's giving birth. That's generally the state law that applies, not always. So, we have to consider this for any place where, we're using Florida
Mm.
parentage laws.
is Florida more open to it than other states? I mean, are there
Oh,
like
our
are there?
laws are considered very friendly. I mean, we're up there with
Oh,
a great,
okay.
it's a great place to proceed with surrogacy. This is the first kind of limit, that we've seen.
It's frightening because it hasn't
Mhm.
happened in 30 years. So it's like, what's happening?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts. I mean, any concluding, things to think about with these countries? I mean, or any other immigration considerations that the two of you
No.
might want to
I, I,
conclude with?
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of how, um, you know, if there's going to be an equal protection or other constitutional challenges to this, if it's implemented.
Mm,
If it's, if it's just on paper, but when the first case kind of comes up where it really has to be put put to the test. It'll be very, very interesting to see how people react to that. You know, those citizens on the list.
Right, exactly. And I mean, if anybody ever listening has any immigration questions, I encourage them to reach out to either of you, be it for traveling to the US for surrogacy, having to stay in the US, any questions on, I mean, with different things we've dealt with over the years for different surrogacy cases. I know you both have been amazing, and it's always kind of a different issue. We had questions about birthright citizenship when Trump first took office that we talked about a lot. And since I have you here, have there been any updates on that? I know there were appeals and
no passage yet. We're still
Passage.
so as of this recording, any person born in the United States will continue to become a U.S. citizen by birthright.
As it's been for many, many years.
Right.
Yeah, and then, you know, for those, you know, we have a bunch of federal litigators in the New York office, and they said that they really, truly don't believe that it's really gonna this Supreme Court is gonna change.
Yeah, I mean that's so rooted in our Constitution, and that would be a massive change. So, well, that's good to know. The prevailing thought.
So maybe I think they're looking at this a different way by like an add-on to surrogacy to stop. I mean, this is a different attack on, in a way, birthright citizenship in these situations.
Right. And just to remind the listeners, at what age can a child sponsor their parent, a U.S. citizen?
21.
21. So we're talking 21 years down the road.
Yeah.
Planning ahead.
Yeah, they're planning ahead.
Yeah.
They're planning ahead. And they have,
very interesting.
According to that article, many contracts out. So
going real back quickly to the definitions, is there any other place where there could be a definition to glean from on these definitions of what these countries mean, or is it really just using our best interpretation?
Yeah, you know, I think the biggest challenge, citizens of the country, except for the way Venezuela is described, which makes no sense. He's arrested, but the country as its form or its infrastructure is kind of still the same. So do we need a date? But it's the residency part. It's how those countries, or how they're gonna define the residency in these countries. I mean, is it like the US where you're there on a work visa, it's not a residency, or just because you're there for a day, 2 days, and a week, a month, I don't know, working, is that a residency? Traveling through the country, I don't.
Right. I think you just have to take it on a case-by-case basis. I'm so glad you both are here to help anyone with questions, and we'll just have to see what happens with if the bill gets passed and added into the law, and go from there. But it's good that we're closely monitoring this and any other legal impacts that could impact surrogacy in Florida, and of course immigration law in general. You both are on top of, and always so educated and on top of things. So I know you're both wonderful resources for that. And I thank you both so much for your time, for talking about this so quickly. It's obviously rapidly evolving. So thank you both for that.